Good morning, YouTubers. You have reached the Brian Sledge channel. Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. Thank you very much, and have a great day. Bye.
Answer the question.
No, I've answered.
Oh, would you? Let's say
it has nothing to do with Republicans being in power.
What if it does really great? How do you know? You don't know
because massive socialism has never worked. I mean, Argentina tried, Japan tried it. They have higher IQs than we do. You can't borrow $1 trillion. We don't have $1 trillion. You know what that means, Joy? That means you either are in hock to China, there is definitely massive inflation because you start printing money. That means any dollar you have today will be worth 50 cents.
But who are we indebted to for the Iraq War, for example, where we spent $1 trillion also?
Look,
and Bush and his people brought the deficit up incredibly. So who are we in debt to for that?
Yeah, and the deficit's very bad, and Republicans have been the ones talking about it for years. I think it was Bob Dole who said, let them run on the deficit. We've been running on it for 30 years. Americans don't care. Each president, because of the spending of the government, each president has a bigger deficit than the last one. You know what the entire deficit...
Take a breath.
The entire deficit under George Bush that you're so worried about is $400 billion. This stimulus bill is nearly $1 trillion.
Well, that's not true. First of all, everybody knows, and I'm not a political person exactly, but everybody knows at this point that George Bush got a great surplus when he came into office, and he squandered it. Everyone knows that.
It was a surplus on paper.
Oh, I see. Okay. Now, are you frightened or gleeful that Rush Limbaugh seems to be the head of your party these days?
Oh, I think it's fantastic.
Really?
Yeah, I'd rather have somebody, I mean, I hope, actually, we do have a lot, not that I'd rather have some, but I would like more Republicans running for office who can talk like Rush Limbaugh.
You consider Rush Limbaugh a Republican? I consider him an extreme right-winger. I don't consider him a Republican.
An extreme right-winger with 20 million listeners.
Well, you know, that doesn't mean anything to me.
Well,
that he has 20 million listeners? That doesn't mean that 20 million people are agreeing with him, you know. It means that they're listening.
I think
a lot of people are very masochistic, and they'll listen to Rush Limbaugh.
You're saying that his 20 million listeners hate him and disagree with him?
No, not all, but not everybody agrees with him.
If you're describing someone as extreme, I think it can't be someone who is massively popular with the American people. I mean, that's dead down the center.
Okay. All right, let me ask you something else. Now, do
you listen to Rush, by the way?
I used to work with him. I was on the same station. No.
Well, okay. How can you describe him as extreme? We could interview one of the 20 million people who listen to him every day.
But I'm not that into somebody who filibusters like that. I like a conversation.
Listen to him. How do you know he filibusters?
Because I worked with him for 3 years, and I know what he does.
I used to work with him.
In the early 90s, I had a radio show on WABC Radio.
Okay, so from 20 years ago, you have decided you know that he is an extremist.
I see him all the time.
When he has 20 million listeners.
I know his routine. I know his
More than anyone on TV. More than Oprah. Do you think everybody watching Oprah hates her? They're just watching it out of Schadenfreude? Would you ask Oprah?
Okay, you know,
do people hate you?
Do people hate you? I'd like to ask you that.
No.
Do you think that people hate you?
No. Not when I have 7 New York Times bestsellers. No, I'm very popular.
But you can't have everybody love you. Not everybody loves you, Ann. People think
you asked me if people hated me.
I know, but you say
suddenly
you're saying
no, they don't hate me. Saying everybody loves me.
But you say because you sell books, that makes you think that people love you.
No, I said that indicates to me that they do not hate me, which was the question, Joy.
Okay. Ann was on The View recently. We had a good time. Take a look at this.
We are not attacking you. You wrote something provocative.
Read aloud like you're reading Mein Kampf, and I just did.
And I just read a section aloud.
Yes, and read it like you're reading Mein Kampf again.
I don't think I did that.
I think you did. Yes, that helped the words when I wasn't sitting here.
Let me do this. Throughout John, that's because I'd like to discuss something current.
Was that? Yes, that was lovely. You could do the audio book. Well, we don't know that much about her.
He's attacking you. I just don't appreciate the way you're talking to her. I mean, nobody is attacking you. You didn't have to talk to her.
I wasn't here.
You're not that popular on the show, I don't think. I mean, Sherry had to defend Barbara against you. She felt the need.
Yes.
Because you said that Barbara looked like she was reading Mein Kampf. Sounded like she was reading Mein Kampf when she was reading your book.
Yes, what a brutal attack.
But, you know, Barbara happens to be Jewish. Is that a little...
What does that have to do with the price of tea in China?
About, you know, why did you pick Mein Kampf?
Okay, if you can't mention Hitler or Mein Kampf, when anyone Jewish is interviewing you, then how about not having Jewish people interview? What, we have a list of what can be mentioned?
Just asking, that's all. I mean, you know what, we can talk about...
I think we need a NASDAQ ticker for which words can be used at which times, by which people, when talking to whom, and it would be constantly changing and updated all the time. How about we just talk?
Don't you think there's room for sensitivity? You know, like that cartoon that was in the Post?
No, I think that is a perfect example of what I say in my book. People playing the victim. No. People playing the victim when they're the victimizers. You didn't play the way Barbara Walters read my book the first time, and she was spitting out the words like she was reading from Mein Kampf.
You don't think you're a little paranoid here? I mean, she was just
Well, why don't you play it? Play it for the viewers. Let them decide.
Well, they saw it already.
Oh, no, I don't think so. I liked that part.
All right, we got to take another break. What's the biggest trouble Anne's gotten herself into? We'll ask her when we come back. Okay, let's take a call from Columbus, Ohio. Columbus, you're on the line. Hello.
Hi, Joy.
Hi.
Hi. I just wanted to ask Anne, it seems like her whole focus is on what, is wrong with President Obama's approach to, finding solutions for our current situation. And I was wondering if she's truly honest with herself, what responsibility she feels like, Republicans and the conservatives have in this whole mess that we're in.
Right. They have the responsibility to the Constitution and the country, which they are fulfilling magnificently, I might add. What we have now, as I said, is this massive socialist bill that will transfer money not to individuals, not to create jobs, to state, local, and the federal government, that will, by the way, repeal the welfare reform provisions from the 1996 welfare reform bill that was so successful. Bill Clinton ended up claiming credit for it. It has provisions to, redo at the cost of billions of dollars the docks that are near Nancy Pelosi's husband's rental properties. Chuck Schumer, Senator Chuck Schumer just said, well, okay, she wants to know if you want to defend freedom, you got to vote against this bill.
But it's too long an answer. We have only a little bit of time left, and I have more things to ask you. Like, have you ever gotten into real trouble? For instance, it's interesting that you called Scott McClellan retarded in your book. You said that the 9/11 widows were enjoying their husband's death. Now, those are two outrageous statements. First of all, retarded people could get very offended by that.
That is
Comparing
true.
them to Scott McClellan.
That is true.
I know you were
and
going
I apologize.
there. No,
yes.
seriously, people do not like that when you use the word retarded in that flip manner. And that the 9/11 widows were enjoying their husband's death. Where did you come up with that?
I think it is outrageous for the media to pick on the retarded press secretary as if and treat him like he's suddenly Zarathustra.
But if he was retarded, why did Bush hire him?
I promise you, I called him that even when he was working for Bush, because luckily for me, I don't have a job, and I could stay home and watch press conferences. You'd only see David Gregory getting into it with Scott McClellan. I saw the whole press conference. McClellan could turn, the fact that Bush had eggs for breakfast into an Ehrlichman-Haldeman conspiracy. So he was.
That's pretty clever. That doesn't sound retarded to me.
No, he was terrible for the job. He was another Bush loyalist. It was one of Bush's, it's his Achilles heel that he kept going to Bush loyalist people he knew. They weren't very loyal to him in the case of Scott McClellan. And, oh, man, we've been through the Jersey Girls a million times.
What's their problem? What's your problem with them? I never heard this
Well, they're
before.
gone now, thanks to that book, so we can move on.
But why do you say that people who lost their husbands in a horrible, horrible fire and a terrible tragedy like that?
I didn't say they were enjoying the deaths. I said when they were going around cutting anti-war commercials, cutting commercials for Kerry, using their victimhood to prevent anyone from responding to them. They were loving that, being photographed for Vanity Fair. I said it. We had an argument about it. I won it. They're gone. So we can move on to 3 books later.
Okay,
come on. Didn't I insult anybody in this book? I think they're meant.
Well, you insult single mothers quite a bit, I think.
Excellent. I wanted to get to that topic.
You do insult single mothers.
I don't think I do.
And now, you say practically that single mothers were responsible for everything wrong in the world. Now, I was a single mother. Am I responsible for the financial turndown? Am I responsible for the housing market crash?
No, I think I make it very clear in that chapter.
Is Bernie Madoff a single mother?
Moreover, you weren't an unwed mother, were you?
No, I was a married woman, and I was divorced, and then I was a single mother.
I specifically distinguish widows and divorced mothers from single mothers. We already have words for widows and divorced mothers. They're called widows and divorced mothers.
Why do
Liberals try to include that in the category of single mothers in order to class up the category, like referring to the GI Bill as a form of welfare. And the statistics by now, I mean, we've had 30 years of statistics. The evidence is in. When 80% of the inmates in our prisons were raised by single mothers, mostly unwed mothers. The children of widows don't turn out particularly badly.
But there are tons of people out there who were raised by single mothers who are doing quite well.
Sure, this is looking at it from the other end. And when you
why not look at it from that end?
Well, because that's 80% of the prison population. How about 80% fewer crimes? How about the fact that, according to a liberal Policy Institute, if you remove the factor of single motherhood, keep everything else the same, residence, socioeconomic status, income, the difference in black and white crimes disappears.
Why don't you blame the men who knock these women up?
Because they're not celebrated.
And also, what do you think about Bristol Palin? She's a single mother.
I think she should give the child up for adoption or marry the father. I mean, I say in that, I think the people who should be revered aren't the baby mamas. They are the people who have shotgun marriages. Apparently, not a lot of those shotgun marriages worked out because they used to have them a lot and the divorce rate was lower.
So you would rather that Bristol Myers, I was going to say, what's her name? Bristol Palin, marry the guy, even though
or
maybe...
give the child up for adoption. I think I'm very clear about that.
Do you know what the ramifications of giving a child up for adoption?
Yes, I do. I write about it in the book.
It's not that easy to think.
Well, for the child, it's a lot better, and that's what I'm talking about. The real victims here are the children who are being bought. The worst lottery ticket you could buy your child being raised by a single mother. The best lottery ticket you could buy your child is to give the child up for adoption.
It's
so
too
just don't
simple.
venerate these women and
We're
hold
not
them up as
venerating
yes, they are. Then you haven't watched anything out of Hollywood.
A lot of you are talking about her on Larry's blog, and here's David Thiel to tell us about it. David?
Listen, Joy, we certainly have been talking about Anne's appearance throughout the day. We've been monitoring the comments during your conversation with her. Some of the things we're hearing: bomb thrower, very disappointed, venomous, and this: I like Ann Coulter. While you go to the blog, cnn.com/Larry King, check out the exclusive extra that we have on the blog from an upcoming guest, somebody you're going to be talking to here very shortly. That's Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar. They have 18 kids. 18 children. You're going to be talking about the Octomom here very shortly. And they have given us a blog extra about how to save money when you are raising kids these days. Again, that is at cnn.com/Larry King. Look for that blog link. Jump into the conversation. We look forward to hearing from you. Joy.
Thanks, David. They have a lot of tips, the Duggars. Thank you, Ann, for coming on.
Thank you.
You were fine. You were great. I loved talking to you, really. When we come back, an exclusive, a new plan to pay for the octuplets and their siblings. But is it going to cost you anything? Find out when we come back.